What's up, brothers? Hope everyone's doing well out there. I've been waiting the last 3.5 hours for that damn sun to come up, and it looks like it's finally here. So I can turn the camera on and I can have a conversation with you guys for a little while. Anyways, what I wanted to talk about in today's video is why women tend to punish the normal guys. You know, the normal, decent guys. And they reward some of the most poorly behaved scumbags you could ever possibly imagine. Now, it doesn't have to be this way, and it's not always this way, but it often is this way. There's a lot of decent, normal men out there that find themselves in a little bit of a relationship with a woman. And maybe they've been talking, they think there's a connection there, and right before his very own eyes, he sees her slip away and go home with a man that's well below him in looks, money, status. As a person, he's just not on his level. But she chose him anyways. By the way, I think just about every man out there has been through that exact experience. I think it's just one of those things, you know. We don't like to admit it, but it's happened before. Now, I should also mention that me personally, I like the punishment. You know, I like when a woman punishes me because, I don't want to be cheated on, but the typical punishment is just a woman pulling back. And when a woman pulls back, a man gets the greatest gift he could ever possibly receive. Freedom, sovereignty, time alone. It took me a long time to learn how to get a woman to pull back, but once I did, I'll tell you what, it was a useful skill to learn. Anyways, on with the subject. Here's what you guys have to understand. The dating game is all about making connections. And the game of making connections is a game of pressure. You're either applying pressure or you're reacting to it. And you can apply offensive pressure or defensive pressure. Examples of offensive pressure would be seduction, anything you do to attract a woman, looks, money, status, mouthpiece, flirting, the atmosphere of a date that you take her on. Anytime you put effort into making a woman like you, you're applying offensive pressure. Examples of defensive pressure would be ghosting, flaking, rejecting, taking forever to respond to texts, playing hard to get. Any type of hesitation or resistance, that's defensive pressure. Now, it goes without saying that most men out there apply a lot of offensive pressure. You know, constant offensive pressure, pushing a woman away. It also goes without saying most women out there are really damn good at defensive pressure, rejecting men, playing hard to get. They naturally just get it. So if a woman applies a little bit of offensive pressure to a man and then applies a lot of defensive pressure to a man, it brings up anxiety and fear of missing out. But both men and women can apply offensive and defensive pressure. And if you're applying pressure, you're in the driver's seat. If you're reacting to pressure, you're in the passenger seat. Just the way it is. Which is why women love, or I shouldn't say love, it's why women become addicted to some of the most poorly behaved scumbags out there. The narcissists and the sociopaths, these type of guys. And it's because they have a natural capacity to idealize, love bomb, devalue, discard, and then repeat the cycle over and over again. It's a constant state of pressure, both offensive and defensive pressure, a whirlwind of it, causing a woman to become addicted, creating a trauma bond with the woman. You know, these guys don't consider the emotions or the mental health of other people. They only go after what they want, and they've learned that that's how they get what they want. And that's why they run circles around the normal guys. Now, you can choose to play that game. You can implement that as a normal guy, if you'd like to. You know, that's essentially what they teach guys in pickup, and you know, these guys that teach seduction and attraction and how to get a woman excited and whatnot. That's essentially what they teach. Now, you can apply that if you think that's what you want to do. Another route you can go is the route that a lot of guys take, which is the hypergamy route. A lot of guys want to latch on to hypergamy. They just love the concept of hypergamy because it makes them feel good. It makes them feel like they have a chance. As long as they make money and have a good career and have status, eventually they'll get a woman. But then they find out that once they get the money and the status, you know, it might, at best, get them used by women who are, you know, some of the most poorly behaved, worst types of women, but it doesn't really open up any doors for authentic, healthy relationships. So I don't think hypergamy is a good strategy if you're a guy. But that's neither here nor there. Real game is being able to identify what type of a woman you're dealing with. You know, identifying if you're dealing with a decent woman that considers other people's feelings. You know, a woman that you can count on. There are plenty of genuine, authentic women out there. Problem is, most of these women are invisible to men. Just like normal men are invisible to narcissistic women. You know, if you're a guy that just isn't seeing through the field clearly, you're gonna have a hard time identifying the right type of woman. Now, I don't know why it is, but it's always been this way for me. I can be out with a group of my buddies, and I'll see all types of women out there, right? I'll see women that are, you know, genuine emotional creatures, you know, calm, peaceful, delicate creatures, sweet, kind-hearted creatures. And I'll see other women that are basically just users. I'd say a good 90% of the time you can tell just by their outer shell. You can judge a book by its cover a lot of times. You know, you'll see that really hot platinum blonde, makeup caked on her face, fake tits. Everything about her seems fake. You look at her in her eyes and it's almost as if there's no soul there, no spirit, no human being on the inside. The lights are just shut off. But your buddies are all going crazy about her. You know, they're all like, you know, fucking wagging their tails and just going nuts looking at her, right? They can't resist that type of woman. That's like the female version of the immature bad boy that a lot of, you know, kind of dumber chicks go for. And the lady will give them a look. The lady smiles at one of your buddies. And he's so dumb that he thinks she's actually in love with him. You know, so she naturally starts that game with him, you know. She applies offensive pressure just with a smile and a look. So he meets that, he follows her lead, and he goes and applies offensive pressure to her. He cold approaches her. And then, you know, at some point, she applies defensive pressure. She pulls back, or she acts like she's no longer interested in him. And now he's obsessed with her. You know, she's wrecked his mind, messed with his head. and he can't snap out of it. And that's when he finds himself in a difficult situation. If he has something that she wants, she may use him. May use him for many years. And he'll constantly be under a state of stress. And eventually she'll just leave his ass. And then you have some guys out there that either they have a natural capacity to do this because they're narcissists or whatever, or they learn it through pickup tactics. And they constantly use these strategies to keep a woman hooked. It's strange. Strange that you would take that path. Like, it seems to me like an unpleasant life, not something that I would want to be involved in. But the truth is, if you're a normal guy and you want a normal, healthy relationship, you have to be able to identify, there might be a lady over there. I consider myself blessed to not be attracted to that super fake plastic Barbie who might look like a 10 out of 10. There's another girl over here that's like a 7, but she's cute. To you, she's a 7. To some guys, she's a 7. To me, she's a 10. We all have a different definition. But I can just see that she's like a normal person. Like she has empathy. She considers other people when she makes her decisions. To me, she's just a way cooler chick. So that's the one that I go with. And in this situation, you don't really have to fake it. The offensive pressure comes naturally because I'm curious about getting to know her, so I talk to her. The defensive pressure, it also comes naturally because I don't know about you, but me, it's like, if a relationship is starting out, I'm kind of like, well, maybe I should take my time here and make the right decisions. So I naturally separate a bit. Not because I'm playing a game, but it's just because as a man you enjoy your freedom. And then you have masculine and feminine polarity. You have a woman that's chasing that emotional connection and commitment with you. And you enjoy her. You treat her well. But you also enjoy your space. So, sometimes you might be a little indifferent. A little bit, I don't want to say distant. I would say more boring. Right? Like intentionally boring. As a man, you can do exciting things to turn her on and make her, smile all the time. But sometimes you're just like, damn, I need some space. So I can't get her excited right now. I have to be a little more boring. And, she might pout a bit. She wants you to be fun and playful and close. But as a masculine man, you can't always be doing that. So you get a little boring on her. She pulls back a bit. And oddly enough, you have this perfect dynamic of masculinity and femininity. And the longer a relationship, as long as it lasts and it unfolds and you move on to different steps, as a man, space is more and more important. You might have to have time to be in your garage working on something, going fishing, watching a football game. Being a man, you have to have space, time away from your woman. So you create that natural polarity. It just comes naturally, and you don't have to do it by playing some stupid, tricky games. But it requires the right kind of woman, which to me, this is what having game actually means. Having game means you can identify if you're dealing with a woman that's just a user or a woman that actually likes you. That's the only skill you need. When you have that skill, you'll do just fine. Then you can let it unfold naturally. But that's just what I do, and that's my thoughts on that subject. Now, I suppose the title of this video The reason why a lot of you guys might have clicked was just simply for the reason why women punish the normal guys and they reward the poorly behaved guys. And that's all it is. You know, when you're a normal guy, when you're kind of a simp, you know, you're chasing those emotional connections. What happens is, you know, when you apply that constant offensive pressure, you push a woman away, you push her back. And this causes her to apply defensive pressure to match you back. It's like a football game, you know. You apply offensive pressure to push the defense back. And the defense applies pressure on the offense because it's a battle of field position. You know, you don't want to put your offense in a bad position. So the goal of the defense is to never put the offense in a bad position. The goal of the offense is to never put the defense in a bad position. Maybe that doesn't make sense to some of you guys, but I think some of you will get it. I understand, like, analogies sometimes go over people's heads. But a woman's going to meet your offensive pressure with defensive pressure if you're just constantly applying offensive pressure. It's natural. You know, and if it's too much and your polarity becomes, you know, you become a guy that seems feminine to her, she'll eventually leave the situation altogether. Leave you with some other guy. And that other guy is going to be a poorly behaved guy that gets her excited. He's manipulative, but he stirs up emotions within her. And she can't help herself but to run off with him. But understand that they deserve each other. You know? If you're a man that's going through shit like that, or a woman that's going through shit like that, it's only because you did a bad job of picking. You know, you don't know how to identify the right type of people that are good for you. When you do learn how to do that, it's a smooth and easy process. All right, guys. Suppose that's it for this morning's talk. I've been up since 3:30 this morning. Now it's 7:30. And it's time for me to hit the gym. Looks like my peers are just now waking up and they're probably about to head there. And we'll get this day started. I hope this video was somewhat informative. And that's about it for today, guys. Until next time. See ya.